welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something that really affects all of us in some way or another, jobs. And we have a pretty interesting source for this one. It's a casual chat, actually, originally for English learners, but it kind of sheds light on some really basic truths about work and careers.
Exactly. Yeah, we're looking at this conversation from the English Basic podcast with Alex and Jamie. And what's great is how their sort of relaxed approach actually opens up quite a bit of insight into the world of work. We can really dig into some of the ideas they touched on.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? When you actually stop and consider it, the sheer variety of jobs out there is, well, it's huge.
Yeah.
And even those jobs we maybe don't think much about, what do they actually involve? What skills do people, pick up from them?
That's a perfect starting point, actually.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Alex and Jamie began, looking at those first jobs, the often quite humbling ones.
Yeah.
They were sharing memories. And Jamie talked about working in fast food, specifically the drive-thru.
Ah, the drive-thru.
Right. Think about it. You're constantly having to communicate clearly, often super fast, under pressure. And you need that mental quickness to repeat orders back correctly, time after time.
Totally. And Alex's story, being a grocery cashier, dealing with serious coupon users.
Yeah. Sounds stressful in its own way.
It does. But like they said, these jobs, they might seem basic on the surface, but you're actually building some really key skills. It's definitely not just about taking an order or scanning groceries.
No, not at all. And what's really interesting is how these early experiences dealing with tricky customers maybe or handling a rush, they lay the groundwork for resilience and people skills.
Right.
These aren't just temporary things. They're often where we first learn to, navigate workplace situations, skills that frankly, even CEOs use every single day.
That's a great point. Okay, so zooming out a bit, Alex and Jamie then started kind of categorizing the world of work. They mentioned the classic office jobs first.
Yeah, the HR, marketing, finance roles, what people often call the 9 to 5.
The standard 9 to 5.
And they put that alongside the hands-on trades.
Yeah.
Electricians, mechanics, plumbers.
Right. Very different skill set needed there.
Totally different, often very physical, tangible problem solving.
Yeah.
It just shows the sheer range of talents needed in the working world.
It does. And they also made sure to give a shout out to service jobs, waiters, hotel staff, baristas. Alex and Jamie really stressed how much effort and people skills go into those roles, especially during peak times. It's easy to forget how demanding that can be.
Definitely. And then they sort of branched out further into creative fields, designers, writers, musicians.
Yeah.
And obviously the huge tech sector, app developers, web designers, IT support, you name it.
When you list them like that, you really see how varied it all is and how it's probably changing all the time.
It is. And they didn't forget the rise of remote work either. Jamie mentioned working from home, freelancing.
Oh, yeah. That's huge now.
And that whole concept of being a digital nomad. A really fundamental shift in, how and where work gets done for a lot of people.
So looking at all these categories, does it change how we even define work these days?
Well, I think it shows how much more fluid our idea of a job has become.
Yeah.
What it is, where you do it.
Right.
Things like fully remote work. That used to be pretty niche. Right now, it's a major part of the job market.
Definitely.
And it makes you think about the skills that are becoming more important across the board, like self-management and communicating digitally no matter what field you're in.
Yeah.
You mentioned your own view. Did thinking about these categories make you see any industry differently?
The service industry point definitely struck me. Just remembering that every time you interact with someone, they're doing a job, and it often takes way more skill and patience than you might realize at first glance.
That's true.
Now, Alex and Jamie also went over some common English phrases about work, which is useful, actually, for getting the culture around it. Let's start with 9 to 5.
Yeah, the classic 9 to 5. As they pointed out, it's just become shorthand, hasn't it? For a typical office job, standard hours, predictable schedule.
Yeah, everyone knows what that means.
It's interesting how phrases like that just stick and end up representing a whole way of working.
Right. And then side hustle. That feels very current.
Oh, definitely. The side hustle, it captures that kind of entrepreneurial spark, doesn't it? That people have to earn extra money or maybe follow a passion outside their main job. The example they used was good an office worker who teaches yoga on the side.
Yeah, perfect example. Another one they brought up was climb the corporate ladder. What image does that bring up?
It's very visual, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests, moving up within a company structure, promotions, more responsibility, hopefully more pay. It's a very traditional idea of career growth.
It is. And lastly, the very direct phrase, I'm out.
Yeah, pretty blunt. In a work context, I'm out just means I quit.
Simple as that.
Yeah, it signals that decision to leave and do something else. And if you think about it, understanding these idioms, it's not just about vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's about getting these sort of unspoken rules and the common stories we tell about work and careers.
Exactly. It gives you a little window into everyday workplace chat and, the cultural shorthand. Okay, let's switch it up a bit. Have some fun. They talked about dream jobs, like absolutely no limits.
The fantasy job scenario.
Yeah. Jamie wanted to host a travel show, get paid to travel the world and eat amazing food.
Well, who wouldn't sign up for that? Sounds pretty good.
Right. And Alex dreamed of being a movie director, calling the shots, being the creative vision behind it all.
Interesting choices. Makes you wonder what those sort of no-holds-barred dreams reveal, doesn't it?
It really does. What about you? If there were zero constraints, what would your ultimate dream job be?
It's a fun exercise, just to see what really excites you.
It can be quite telling, actually. Like, for Jamie, maybe it's about discovery and new experiences. For Alex, perhaps creativity and leadership.
Yeah.
And identifying those core drives can actually help, even when you're thinking about more realistic career steps. That's a really good point. Okay, let's bring it back down to earth slightly. Alex and Jamie then got into what makes a job a good job. And their ideas were pretty spot on, I thought.
Yeah, they mentioned things like having a good boss that's huge. Fair pay, obviously.
Yeah.
And getting along with your coworkers. That whole human side of work is just so important for feeling satisfied.
It really is. And they also talked about the work itself being meaningful. Ideally a role that doesn't just burn you out constantly and maybe gives you some sense of purpose beyond the salary.
Right, which links to their point about work-life balance, too. Having enough time and energy left over for, life.
Exactly.
Family, hobbies, relaxing. They even joked about needing time for Netflix, which, let's be honest, is pretty relatable.
Very relatable. And they specifically mentioned jobs like nursing, teaching, social work roles, where that sense of purpose is often really central. When you think about your own work or what you look for, how do those factors stack up? Is there anything that's non-negotiable for you in a good job?
Well, that purpose element is interesting because while, fair pay and a decent boss are essential, feeling like your work matters, that it contributes something, that can be a really powerful motivator.
Yeah.
It kind of pushes back against the idea that work is purely about the money.
Okay, now for something a bit quicker. Alex and Jamie did this fun rapid fire thing with random jobs and their first thoughts. Let's try it. Firefighter.
Yeah. Jamie immediately said brave, but then quickly added, definitely not for me, scared of fire, which shows how personal feelings just jump right in.
Okay, pilot?
Alex saw cool uniform, while Jamie admitted to motion sickness. So you get the image versus the potential physical reality.
Accountant.
Jamie, good with numbers. Alex, jokingly, I'd probably fall asleep. So, playing on those common stereotypes a bit.
Teacher.
Jamie said, so much respect, and then admitted, I was not the best student. Which is kind of a nice nod to educators, maybe thinking back.
Delivery drive.
Alex called them underrated heroes, didn't he? Especially thinking about them working in bad weather and stuff. It highlights those essential jobs we sometimes take for granted.
So true. And barista.
Yeah, yes. Jamie's summary was perfect.
Yeah.
Caffeine gods.
Couldn't put it better myself.
Captures their vital role in many people's mornings, right?
Totally. Okay, last one. Influencer.
That got an honest reaction from Alex. Still not entirely sure what they actually do.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
It kind of reflects that general uncertainty around some of these newer, still evolving professions.
Right.
But these quick takes, even though they're lighthearted, they do show our collective ideas about different jobs. Sometimes, right? Sometimes maybe not so much.
Yeah, and they can make you think a bit more about what those jobs really involve day to day.
Exactly. Prompt a bit more curiosity.
So, wrapping things up, Alex and Jamie finished with some thoughts on just the overall role of work in our lives. They basically said, look, whatever the job is, it's a big part of life. And you learn things from it, you have experiences, good or bad.
Yeah, they really stressed that point. Yeah. And also that everyone's career path is different. It's very individual.
Right.
And they sort of encouraged keeping an open mind, being willing to learn new things, maybe try different roles throughout your working life.
Good advice. So, to kind of summarize our deep dive today, we've explored this huge landscape of jobs, haven't we? from those first, often formative experiences right up to dream careers.
Yeah, we've touched on the skills we pick up, the different sectors, even the slang we use to talk about it all.
Okay, so for our final thought to leave listeners with, thinking about this massive variety of jobs and all the different things that make a job good, what's a profession, maybe one we tend to overlook, that might actually hold a lot more value or interest than we typically assume?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And maybe what assumptions do we carry about the world of work that might be worth, questioning or rethinking?